Here we have another video about why medical marijuana laws reduce traffic deaths. December 2nd, 2011. This is also a time, like in all my videos, you can read the URL, you can go there yourself and check it out. States that legalize medical marijuana see fewer fatal car accidents, according to a new study, in part because people may be substituting marijuana smoking for drinking alcohol. Alright, and that will also open up a new topic for me of whether or not marijuana is indeed safer than alcohol. We take alcohol for granted. Alcohol got us a lot of places in life, and for that I respect alcohol. I understand that alcohol has given us writing, it has given us math, it has given us the pyramids of Giza, it has given us so many different things that we take for granted, and we don't even know that alcohol has even given it to us. I'd like to take this time right now to recommend a documentary that is on Netflix. If you have an account with Netflix, I strongly suggest that you look at this documentary and understand the severity of the situation that alcohol has influenced us into. It brought upon the revolution, the industry revolution. It ultimately drove us to invent some of the things that make our lives easier. If you doubt me, I dare you to take a look at this video and keep doubting me. This documentary proves evidence that is established in that video that it did in fact induce writing to its popularity that it is now, and it did in fact induce mathematics to the popularity that it is now. Between writing and mathematics, it's primarily our existence. With that said, I'm going to keep reading. 16 states and the District of Columbia have legalized medical marijuana since the mid-1990s. For the new study, economists looked at 1990 to 2009 government data on marijuana use and traffic deaths in the 13 states that had passed legalization laws during that time period. The data from the National Household Survey on Drug Use and Health and the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. I hate reading those names, to be honest. They are way too long. Comparing traffic deaths over time in states with and without marijuana law changes, the researchers found that fatal car wrecks dropped by 9% in states that legalized medical use, which was largely attributed to the decline in drunk driving. Okay, if that teaches us anything, it teaches us that marijuana is a great thing for our economy so far, as per se the safety of the drivers out there. I, for one, have quit drinking, primarily because of who I dedicate all these videos to, ex-Gorecore, but she can be found on YouTube, by the way. But now I'm going to look at another reason, look at it as another reason for maybe why I should quit drinking. Who knows? Maybe I'll start smoking marijuana. Maybe I won't. Ultimately, that is up to me, and I will choose to do it as I see fit, but I will do it from a legal standpoint if I have to. And I do feel the need, as of right now, to take the legal standpoint into consideration. Furthermore, the researchers controlled for other factors like changes in driving laws and the number of miles driven that could affect the results. Medical marijuana laws are not significantly linked with changes in daytime crash rates or those that didn't involve alcohol. But the rate of fatal crashes in which a driver had consumed any alcohol dropped 12% after medical marijuana was legalized, and the crashes involving high levels of alcohol consumption fell 14%, even higher. Once again, reinforcing that marijuana may be a good thing for our economy. The authors found that medical marijuana laws reduced crashes in more men than women. Probably because men drink more than women. That's what that would tell me. By 13% compared to 9%. In line with data showing that men are more likely to register as medical marijuana users than women. Okay, I was wrong. Or maybe I wasn't even. Who knows? Maybe I'll do a study about alcohol and the effects, and maybe I'll sway some of you to change your opinion of drinking it. Like I said, I for one am not one to drink alcohol. It has changed my life in a lot of ways that I do not look at as good. I look at them as bad. I do not consume alcohol at all. The overall reduction in traffic deaths was comparable to that seen after the national minimum drinking age was raised to 21, the authors note. Yeah, so that is a very notable comparison there. We are astounded by how little is known about the effects of legalizing medical marijuana, led author Daniel Reese, professor of economics at the University of Colorado, Denver, said in a statement. We looked into traffic fatalities because there is good data, and the data allows us to test whether alcohol was a factor. Traffic fatalities are an important outcome from a policy perspective because they represent the leading cause of death among Americans 5 to 34. Which is something that we should definitely understand. Possibly driving less would drive those numbers down, but it would probably still keep that same age range. I know that smoking tobacco is the leading cause of death in the USA. If you did not know that, take the time to look and educate yourself on it. I strongly suggest that you quit smoking cigarettes because you will die from them. And it will be a very painful death if you do die from them. This can be noted in very, very many cases across the entire world. The authors also found that in states that legalized medical use, there was no increase in marijuana smoking by teenagers, a finding seen in other studies as well. I'm sorry to tell you this, but if anybody in the government that works for the government coming to my video as themselves is watching this, but I'm just going to tell you now, if this is true and what they're saying here is 100% relevant to teenagers smoking marijuana and it not changing in numbers, then, you know, realize that. Understand that. Really take that apart in your head and debate with yourself whether or not that is a good thing, because it is a good thing. They're standing for what they believe in, and it's not going to change. It's always going to be right there. And as those teenagers grow older, they're going to take your seat, and they are going to understand things in a very different way than what you do. And until ultimately you do figure out what they mean and their ways, you are not going to be able to sit down and tell yourself that, hey, I've walked in those shoes. I know where they're coming from. I'm going to keep reading here because I'm not going to get on too big of a rant about government officials and sitting down and watching my videos, but I decided to take that time right there. A finding seen in other studies as well. But in many cases, the laws were linked with an increase in marijuana smoking among adults in their 20s. The laws were linked to an increase in marijuana smoking for people in their 20s. I think that people in their 20s lived through an era where maybe marijuana was looked at a little bit differently, and they were maybe scared, or are getting more scared as they grow because of the government and their policies. Maybe this has something to do with it, maybe it doesn't. Ultimately, it's pretty much irrelevant, but I think it can be relevant. This rise was accompanied by a reduction in alcohol use by college-age youth, suggesting they were smoking weed instead. Studies have consistently found that while mixing either marijuana or alcohol with driving is unadvisable, which I totally agree with, driving high is much safer than driving drunk. Research on stone driving is inconsistent, with some studies finding impairment and others not. The alcohol data, however, is clear in establishing a link between drinking and significant deterioration in driving skills. The data also consistently shows that using both drugs together is the worst of all. This is primarily because in other research that I've done, marijuana amplifies the use of alcohol, and alcohol is, like they say here, a very bad thing to use when driving. However, marijuana is safer to use while driving, but still unadvisable. I agree with all of this 100%. If you're out there and you're smoking marijuana, please do not drive. For your neighbors, and neighbors being everybody in your life that you encounter, do not drive while you are on marijuana. I'm assuming it affects people all differently because of the psychotic tendencies that I have already reviewed. Ultimately, what I gathered from that psychotic part that I reviewed earlier is that if you're smoking marijuana and you're affected differently than the majority of people, then you probably don't want to drive. And as well as if you are affected by it the same way as other people that are using the drug, that are in the quote normality, you probably don't want to drive either, just to be safe. But I mean, ultimately it's your choice, but you have to make that choice. Let's keep reading.